Welcome to Empowerment Point TV, where we help businesses grow by bringing experts on different topics. My name's Debbie Small and I'm the founder of Empowerment Point. Have you ever wondered what is the fastest way to run your business without spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on your business infrastructure? Tonight I have two, not one, but two amazing PR and media gurus who I will introduce to you in just a moment. And we also have some amazing offers from these amazing gurus as well, which you'll hear at the end of the show. Now, just to let you know, our sponsors for tonight is the wonderful Ashley Han, Chef Ashley Han from White Knight, thank you. From White Knight Catering Services, and that's Knight with a K. Ashley caters for small functions, large functions, and everything in between. So the food is going to be delicious tonight, which is really wonderful.
Thank you.
And I'd like to introduce you to our other sponsor tonight, who is Maximilian Beale from Monsieur. Come on over here. From MonsieurCocktail.com.au. Who is an artist with his drinks. So it's going to be a very, very interesting night tonight. Thank you for that, Max.
Thank you,
that's all right. Now, as people keep asking to see the delicious food and the drinks that we're having, I'm going to post a promo video for the food and drinks afterwards as well. So you get to see that on YouTube. Now, just to let you know, you will see me looking down as well. I've got a track sheet over here and my watch as well, because if I don't keep these people on track, they're so passionate about their topic, and all they want to do, which is beautiful, is to give you lots and lots of value. We'll be here till breakfast, and I know I say that all the time, but you know, that's what happens when people get together and really want to give value to business owners. I also want to thank, and I've got my lovely friend Nikki, who is on the back end of Facebook, and she's going to be looking at your comments and your questions. So please put your comments down, put your questions there as well, and she'll be writing them down. And then at the end, if you do have any questions, our experts can actually answer those questions live for you as well, which is fantastic. Yeah. So, I'd like to introduce my two gurus to you. I have, and yes, I'm going to read this off a track sheet to make sure that I get it right for you. I have the lovely Jules Brooke, and I was actually on Jules's show this morning called She's the Boss, which was a lot of fun as well. So thank you for having me on.
My pleasure.
So, for the last 18 years, Jules has been teaching small business owners and entrepreneurs how to grow their sales and get the phone ringing by getting featured for free in the media. She has owned and operated a number of small businesses herself and ran a PR agency specialising in small business clients, startups and entrepreneurs for well over a decade, which is fantastic.
It's about 15 years in the end.
She has worked in most disciplines in marketing, both in Australia and overseas, and loves to share her knowledge and experience with her customers, which we're very grateful for as well.
My pleasure.
Her business Handle Your Own PR has helped over 1,000 small business owners to make millions of dollars worth of media exposure by running their own PR campaigns. Radio and being featured, campaigns using her online boot camps, coaching and PR tools. Jules' students have been on TV, radio and been featured in magazines and newspapers nationally, and many have gone on to huge success in their businesses as well. Jules has a big personality and infectious enthusiasm, which she uses to great effect when she teaches. She manages to simplify the whole process to make handling your own PR an easy, achievable part of your marketing mix, and that's why I have her on tonight as well. In her spare time, Jules loves reading, cooking, hanging out with her children, watching movies and partying with her friends. That sounds like a good night.
I was going to say there's nothing athletic in that or sporty, is there?
There'd be nothing athletic or sporty in mine either, so don't worry about it. It's all good. So we're going to hear more from Jules tonight as well, which is really wonderful. So thank you for coming along tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure. And our other guru tonight is Erik Bigalk. Hello. We've known each other for quite a while.
Thank you for having me there.
My absolute pleasure. Erik is a business solutionist, serial entrepreneur, international business writer and speaker, quantum coach and founder and CEO of the multi-award-winning brand, communication and creative marketing firm Smart Solutions, based here in Melbourne, Australia. He has assisted countless entrepreneurs and businesses with their media messaging and brand positioning across different industries in Australia and internationally. His broad background and his interviews with some of Australia's leading business minds place him as a versatile voice on all things business, entrepreneurship, marketing, mindset, and human behaviour. So it's great that we've got you here tonight as well.
We do sound very similar.
That's
I was
great.
listening to that first couple of paragraphs and thinking,
I left the partying bit out now.
but we know that's true.
We do. In his spare time, Erik loves being in nature, especially the beach and the bush. He loves food, growing food, shopping for food, cooking and eating food. Well, guys, you're in the right spot tonight, aren't you?
Well, I just came for the food, if you ask me.
Definitely. He enjoys
Happy
travel,
exchanging.
reading and writing, and personal development and coaching. He loves to bring out the best in himself and others. So welcome tonight, Erik. It's going to be a fun night.
Thank you.
That is all right. And it's time to start our dinner party. So let's begin, guys.
All right.
Okay. Now, tell me, we've got entree starting already.
Oh,
Come on down.
fantastic.
What do we have?
We have Australian cured salmon with dill, lemon and lime,
Yum.
rocket herb salad, Yarra Valley feta, and we've got some cured radish on the side.
Fantastic.
Looks
Thank you so
gorgeous.
much for that.
Thank
Wow.
you very much. Enjoy.
It looks
Thank
awesome.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
You should see this.
Well, guys, while we've got our food, we're going to do our
We're going to
first.
chip it up and go, this is what it looks like.
We're going to do our first drink for the night as well.
Ooh.
So over to you, Monsieur Cocktail.
So, first drink this evening is La Dolce Vita. More than a drink, expect an experience. I will take you on a walk down the street of Italy through.
We're going
to
to Italy as well. You didn't
Wow.
tell us that.
Love Italy. Have you been to Italy?
Mhm.
I haven't been to Italy, but I look forward to going to Italy very much so.
Well, it's going to be in about half a second, I think.
Oh, wow.
So here we are celebrating 100 years anniversary of the classic Negroni, which is perfect
okay.
to start the dinner, as it is an appetizer and will stimulate your appetite.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wow, that
So
looks,
on the side of the drink, as you can see, there's a cheeky little food pairing.
So
we
cheeky.
We recommend first to actually have a sip of your cocktail. Enjoy it.
Thank you.
I'll let you discover the
Guys.
flavor of it.
I like
Cheers
the
to a
giant
great
ice
night.
cube as well.
Cheers
That's very
to a
cool.
great
Cheers.
night.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Alongside, on the side, I
You
will
can put
leave
that up if you want a bit.
the classic playlist of Italian music
Oh,
to
that's
create
really nice.
the atmosphere.
Oh, yum.
So Erik, you already found the hand fan, have you? No, please. Open
You
it.
just said about the food pairing?
Almost. If you open it up, grab your cocktail on the other hand, close your eyes, fan yourself and smell it. It is your garnish inside the fan. It's imbibed with orange
wow.
aroma.
Oh,
Now have a sip of your cocktail, close your eyes, and imagine yourself in a terrace in Italy.
Oh, that's amazing.
I totally can.
Just to let you know, this smells absolutely beautiful, the fan. And with that and the drink. Oh,
And the
wow.
soft, gentle breeze and the...
yeah. I just
the
about want
music.
to put my sunnies on and get a straw hat to kind of,
Oh, wow.
unbutton the
So if
shirt.
you think you had enough, this is only the beginning.
Oh, wow.
I will invite
Oh.
you to grab the smoke as it is infused with citrus aroma as well. It is part of the experience and goes with your cocktail. Erik, behave.
They don't know you're joking up there on TV land.
It is totally
Wow.
safe.
It is delicious.
When I said artistic, I meant artistic.
Wow, this is awesome.
One more thing before I let you enjoy the cocktail. Have another sip of your cocktail, and on the side you'll find some tomato and mozzarella. It's very classic, but it goes perfectly with some compound of a classic Negroni. Just to remind everyone at home, those drinks are non-alcoholic. All of our experiences are delivered alcoholic or non-alcoholic to include everyone in the experience.
Fantastic.
Enjoy.
So
Thank
hang
you.
on a minute. I'll come back. What do we do with this?
Enjoy
Eat it, just
Grab
eat
it,
it.
and that goes
Stir
with your
it?
cocktail. No, don't
No.
stir it, just
Okay.
grab the tomato.
Wanted to
Well, it's
check.
up to you after all, it's your drink.
Yum.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Wow. It's a PR and media show, guys, so we decided to go all for it, and
And you have. That's
And we
pretty
have.
impressive. I'm very impressed.
The smell of that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh wow,
It's awesome.
that is just amazing.
Have a little taste of the tomato with it. It's nice.
Sorry guys, we're about to start, I promise.
It's a great flavour with the Negroni, isn't it?
But the scent of the fan was was literally transporting, wasn't it? Like the flavor of the Negroni and the scent was just like you let
Amazing.
yourself you slip away into
Guys, I know we've been enjoying Italy, and I could just stay in Italy for quite a while, but I'm going to bring you back
To
because to that's okay. We can actually talk in Italy. It's all good.
Yeah,
we can stay in
but-
Italy. I'd like to start off with. I'm just going to turn that down a little bit. Oh, that music's wonderful. I want to keep it on.
I know, it's great, isn't it? Very
Okay,
evocative.
I know. Okay, so my first question to you guys from the things we discussed is what is PR and what are the benefits of PR?
Who first?
Eva?
Oh, Erik, that's very kind of you. And you can go first next time then. Okay, so
Exactly.
I'll do mine. How I define PR. So to me, PR is about coming up with a story, a good story, and finding an angle somehow in whatever message you want to get out there to make it newsworthy. And as a result, the media will feature it for free. In terms of the benefits, I always think there's sort of three main benefits. The first one is that you get that third-party endorsement. And the third-party endorsement is almost as good when it's the media, because the media is so trusted, weirdly, at the moment. But anyway,
Some isn't.
but if somebody reads about you in The Age, or someone sees you on TV, and you're an expert and they've brought you in, people immediately think
They
you're the
do.
best in your field.
They do.
Which is the second benefit. So it positions you as being a leader in whatever it is that you do. And the third benefit that I go on about, but then I teach people how to do it themselves, so I'm interested to see the difference, is that it's free. You do not pay the media if you want to get a story in there. You have to come up with a newsworthy story. And once you do, they'll put it in for you for nothing. And the benefits... Sorry, and I could go. I'll keep going.
that's all right.
Okay, and the last thing I'll say, while you have one more mouthful, is the other benefit of PR is what you can do with it after you get published or after you have that interview. So if you do, say, if you compare it to, say, advertising, with advertising, you pay whatever you pay to have the creative done for your ad, you place it, and then what do you do with it afterwards? Whereas with PR, really getting published is the start of what you can do with it. It will amplify your message on social media. You can put it on your website to give you credibility. You can send it out in a newsletter. You can, if you're a
It really
wholesaler.
amplifies awareness as well.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and obviously, yes, amplifies awareness. And I'm sure I've forgotten things, so
Thanks for that. Enjoy your food.
I shall dig in.
Yeah, I totally back what Jules just said, and I guess it's the longevity that really tells PR apart from advertising, so to speak, because it does live on. I remember the days working in PR when nobody wanted to know about websites and they just wanted to be in print media, and realizing that, of course, a newspaper has a very short lifespan. A magazine, unless you find it in a doctor's surgery 7 years later, it's got a defined shelf life as well. But with things online, of course, it's very easy to click and share and forward and remember and comment and track, and of course remains there active and easy to find. So the face value of PR, I think, really multiplies. We had a little tattle about the other day whether PR is 3 times or 5 times more
that's
valuable
right,
than
but
advertising.
it's a lot more
Let's
valuable.
agree on 7.
I'm going to bring you back to what you said as well. We were talking digital media. So what's the difference, mainstream versus digital media?
Well, look, everything that goes in print, probably to 95%, goes online.
Yeah,
And it basically is then in the
it
digital
becomes
landscape. And it's a little bit, I think a lot of people just, either don't understand PR per se and how it stands apart from advertising or other marketing disciplines, especially digital.
Yeah.
And the other that there's sort of this, oh yeah, I want to be seen in these publications, and then once they've been seen, oh yeah, tick. But the real value actually sits on the back of it. As you said before, Jules, what do you do with it afterwards? You can lift it into your social, into your website, your blog, your newsletter, that kind of stuff. But it's also the touch points it creates. So if someone hears about you, your personal name, your brand, your product, and searches for it, you'll then be found not just on your website and your social and that stuff, but you'll be found in the Age, in the wherever you've been featured, and that will stay forever. So
it does amazing things for your SEO.
Effective, yeah. It's like organic SEO, high authority backlinks, which you cannot buy actually.
That's right.
Advertising
for years
won't
and
give you
years
that.
and years. 10 years later, if you Google a name and you've appeared in the Age,
still
it'll
there.
still be there.
It's still there. How is PR changing on the back of the digital revolution?
As I just said, like I remember the days when nobody wanted to be online, they all wanted to be in print. So there has been a big shift towards the more fluid media platforms, being digital and online. A lot of people, of course, focused on their social media. And I think the downside of that is that while there is really great content out there, a lot of the content is not really that great. And it's very me, because people can control it. Whereas with PR, ultimately we can't control it. We can nudge it, we can guide it, we can deliver something that media will adapt or adopt and run with. But essentially we're not in control of it. So the moment that it is essentially earned media, like PR coming out, the moment we lift that into our digital realms, it is third-party endorsement, as we said before, and that's where, like I can say the same message in my social media myself, and
So it
people
takes
will,
you to that next level.
yes, well look,
And
if I
especially
say I'm
credibility
great,
and
people
awareness.
think I'm a bit of,
Selling tickets on yourself.
But if the media says you're great, that's a whole other.
right, like the moment that I say, hey, I've just been featured in the Age, the same message that I actually put in my newsletter, right, essentially, but they saying it now, well, all of a sudden it's them saying it, so I can tell you about it all day long, and people go, oh wow, really? Right, so it just changes in the mind of people. It's essentially the same messaging about your business, but it is being said and endorsed by...
It has the power of your best friend saying, you know how...
Oh, it's okay.
You know how
music's fine.
when we read a magazine or a newspaper, we have our favourites. And so we start to trust them. So
Yes.
that if they go... So if I open Good Weekend, which I was used to do before I went only onto digital...
I remember
and
that.
I know, and they used to
get
do
that
an
all the
app
time.
of the week. I always remember, I've got almost every single one of those apps because I believed that they told me it was good and I went and got it. And I think, if you get featured in a mainstream newspaper or a glossy magazine or something like that and someone sees it, they don't go, oh, should I look around, should I check? They go, I love that, and they've endorsed it, I'm going to go and find it. And there's normally a link there so that people can go and purchase straight away.
So it's like the ultimate referral.
It is, and your customers come to you. You put out your information and they come to you. And what Erik was saying later about needing more than one, the other thing is you don't put one ad in a magazine. You don't do one bit of PR and think I've been featured in the Age, so that's it, everyone knows about me now. It has to be consistent, it has to be ongoing, and that's where you see the magic really start to happen. If you've had
What's
20...
consistent mean?
Consistent to me means at least every month you're being featured in the media, maybe 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
And on the back of that, I believe that when you get to about 20 or 30 articles, that's when you really start to see a groundswell of difference. The SEO really starts kicking in. People start to go, oh yeah, I definitely saw that somewhere. I've seen it a couple of times. So it's that, when I had an agency, we used to have the odd client who would come and say, I'll do it for 2 months. Oh no, we've got busy now, so we'll leave it for a while. It's not like that. You've got to keep going all the time. And the 6 months or the 12 months that you get will reap you huge benefits.
That's the one thing, in business, what people do and don't do is the consistency. They'll start to do something, whatever it may be. It might be PR or media, or it might be something totally different. They'll start to do it and then they stop. Mm-hmm. And what they need to do is be consistent with what they're actually doing so it gains traction. Because the first few times or the first number of times it may not pick up, but then it starts to grow and it starts to grow as well. So consistency is really
It's key in
important
everything, really,
in
isn't
every
it?
part of business.
From branding right the way through to any kind of exposure. You've just got to be consistent.
I mean, it's a bit like social media too. You don't just do social media for 2 months, see how it goes, and then decide whether you keep doing it, because it's not worth starting.
And I have to say that I'm very bad when it comes to that, because with the shows it's like, consistent, but then in between it's like I feel like I need a break.
Yeah.
But I shouldn't do that because I need to be consistent with my social media.
You do.
So I'm looking at getting a virtual assistant on
But my
board to
tip-
actually do my social media.
But on that, be aware that the old buffer and all the other sort of automated tools these days aren't basically LinkedIn and Facebook and everything know that it's coming from someone that's not the original source. So you're much better off spending 15 minutes every morning and 15 minutes every night doing real questions, real answers, and real posts yourself, and sending it out.
So not
or
getting a
even
virtual assistant
scheduling
to do
it.
social media marketing.
If they're going to do it, they want to schedule it through the app, not through an external app. So go into
through the
Facebook
platform
and
itself.
schedule the posts. Don't have them coming from anywhere else. And the same thing
There's
with...
a tip for you.
I'm learning all this on my show as well, talking to people. The other thing I heard is upload the video from your from your computer or your phone. Don't send it from YouTube, because it's just that extra block, and so they don't feature it in quite the same way.
Well, I put it onto, we're on Facebook Live now.
Yeah.
And then I take it from Facebook Live and I put it onto YouTube.
Yeah.
So
Perfect.
Take that link in.
That's perfect.
So down the track, when my website's finished, I'm going to put them onto there from YouTube, and then I'll probably get rid of the ones on Facebook. I haven't decided yet.
Leave them on Facebook as well.
Okay.
I would multi-channel,
everywhere,
but you want
man.
to basically
I'm
deliver them
everywhere.
into each channel themselves rather than cross-link. So you don't want to promote your video on LinkedIn in Facebook with a link. You want to load it on Facebook.
In the
and
same
vice
way that you
versa.
don't
so you
want...
want to direct it. So basically, is deliver to the platform within each platform, upload it, and you don't want to do it through a third-party
So
app.
what you're saying, instead of putting a link from YouTube onto LinkedIn, you're saying upload it directly onto LinkedIn.
And then do the same
There
on
you go.
Facebook, and then do the same on Instagram, and it will go much further, and it'll be featured as the full square instead of it being a go to YouTube. And it just increases the views. They just send it further because they want everyone to do that. That's why
all
Facebook
about
Live
me,
works so
LinkedIn
well.
are like, you got to do it through me and I'll help you out. You got to do it through me,
That's-
Facebook. You got to do it through
They
me.
want to
a little
own
bit of
that
ego
content
involved.
as well. Yeah.
Do you think? Just a little bit?
Look, just talking about this, what is PR? Now, like PR commonly stands for public relations, right? And I think that essentially, in its very nature and originally is true, because we want to kind of sort of project our message out to the broader public or populace of our target market. But I argue that, particularly more in recent years, it's actually all about personal relating. It's not about public relating. And particularly in, the world that we live in, where people will trust the comments or the recommendation of someone they haven't met on the other end of the world that may have gives you 3 stars or 5 stars or whatever. They will trust that more than the message that you might put out yourself.
Right.
And when it comes to media, when there are essentially a high authority recommendation or sort of auspicing, like endorsing you, the way that you can achieve that is really just through personal relating. You can't just hit them up with messages and trust that they'll just run it.
Everything's about building relationships these days,
Exactly.
isn't it?
And no one is interested that you've launched this, or that you're having a sale about that, or that you've you've upscaled your manufacturing. What they want to know is Joe Blow, who used your business, what happened to him, how that happened, or why did you start your business? How did you do it? Why did you decide that this way
Because
of
it
doing it
relates.
was better? But much more than... You need to get into an actual real story. That people are so cynical these days about the party line. Do you know what I mean? Like, if it sounds really corporate, if it sounds inauthentic, people will pick up on it straight away. So they're looking for that authenticity of your voice. And no one else can do your voice as well as you do it. Do you know what I mean? And when I say your voice, I mean your written voice as well.
Yeah, that was one of the things that, I found that if I did get a social media marketing person to do all of that, how are they going to know it's my voice?
That's right. You're going to have to write it anyway. They can just post it for you.
Well, I can post it.
No, but actually that becomes bigger when you've got to do it natively on each platform. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
So I mean,
That's fair enough.
it's I guess you get
Okay, it's an
ghostwriters,
interesting way to
or
look at it.
when we work with clients, it takes a little while for us to really
Understand
entrenched in their culture and their tonality and their messaging and so forth. And when we work with clients, and nowadays it doesn't take us very long because we've been doing it a long time, but between when they come to us with their ideal messaging they want to send to market, we then need to water it down so that it actually becomes palatable to an audience, and more so to the media, that they actually go, oh hey, there's an interesting point in there, or there's a value to my readers or audience. And sort of come away from this, oh look at me, I'm so great, we've just done an award, or we've just
And
invented
also let
something
me
great.
bamboozle
And I think it's that sort of bringing it down, and once we have sort of attuned to that, we actually write 90% of the content. We write 90% of the comments of our
Yeah,
clients,
amazing.
and they'll just go, "Oh, I would have said that," right? But then it's attuned to the context of what we're doing
That's
with
right.
media, and based on the personal relationship with the media,
And
that
that's-
it actually fits and it's going to
That's
flow
the
on.
difference between getting a VA to do it and having a professional do it. So, you know, I mean, we all know that we can do things for free and on the cheap, but they're never as good as a professional doing it. I mean, and I would say that, and I'm very obvious with that when I teach people how to do PR. I can teach you to get started. If it starts getting complicated, if you start wanting more and more, or you want to go in a different direction, or there's some controversy behind what it is that you're saying, it might be better to get a professional to do it. But if you just want to build awareness, and you've got products or you've got a service and you want to let people know about it, there's a gazillion ways you can do that by going directly. But there is always a place for the professional that knows more than you do.
And we're going to break those things up to make it easier for you too, guys. Okay. Advertorial, editorial, what's the difference?
Advertorial you pay for, editorial is free.
Okay, and I liked what you guys said as well, that with the editorial, you need to earn the space rather than buy the space, which I really
Well,
liked.
Erik will explain that really well, because that's very much an
I'm done. Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
It's all right.
It's a bit of an agency thing, though. I think that earned, paid,
Thank
and
you.
I taught myself that last year, and then I've forgotten. It's gone.
Earned,
You know?
owned, and bought.
Right, there you go. Thank you. Go on. Explain the difference to people.
Okay, so owned refers to the platforms that essentially you control yourself. So that's your social media, your website, your blog.
Sorry, Dan.
Thank you.
That's all right. Go for
Thank you,
it.
guys.
And essentially you're free to choose what sort of content you put out on that, and there's no limitations on it. You don't have to pay for it. It's the thing you control, and therein lies also the inherent risk that sometimes the content we put out there is very me and very sales, very predictable, and if it replays, you probably lose audience interest.
That's where you can say you're having a sale or whatever, because people expect you to.
Yeah, but you have to also mix it up. I mean, we're talking about social media, like 1 in 3 or 2 in 5 posts might be salesy or call
Delicious,
to action
thank
driven.
you.
The others should really be content, value add, engagement, questionnaire, something like that, right?
Oh, thank you. It's delicious.
You can never go wrong with
Thank you.
informative.
Exactly, and
like this.
particularly now it's all about giving and giving, where
Yeah.
traditionally, 10 years ago, everyone was about, control my knowledge, my IP, and you have to pay me to kind of read my stuff, right? And now it's really about providing really value content, and it also means, I think we live in a world of greater specialization, so the more tailored your content is to your audience, the more engagement you get from that audience. So it's no point of being public relating to everyone when actually you just have a key message to that audience.
That's right.
And your story really relates to them and resonates with them.
So when you said a key message to that audience, so we were talking to that it's really important to have a target market and to know who your target market
And
is.
to understand for me, the important thing for PR, and I'd be really interested in your opinion on this, Erik, is you can't, exactly as you were saying, you can't talk to everyone. So the best thing that you can do in all aspects of marketing is identify the niches within your market. So, for instance, and I'll use this one as a broad one, but I use this a lot because I used to work a lot with in the mum and parenting space. But if you're going to mums, or if you're going to women, then people sort of say, "Oh, my business suits women," and you go, "Well, how do you speak to women? There's a gazillion different types," and they'll go,
People
"Oh, well,
are always
it's mums."
scared in the beginning to niche right down.
They
when
are.
people do end up niching right down
That's where
and
the
they
power
talk to
is.
those people, then they suddenly understand that's where the power is.
Because I always say, if you look at mums, you've got young mums who are staying at home and not working. You've got young mums who are working. You've got corporate mums. You've got older mums. You've got, anyway, off the top of their head, those ones. What you would say to a young mum who's got a job is completely different to what you'd be saying to someone who's got a newborn and is thinking about not going back to work. Is completely different to what you'd say to someone like me who's got teenage kids.
Yeah.
To somebody who's got tenure. I mean, they're just different messages.
Yeah.
And if you want to get that cut through, you need to talk in the language of the people that you're trying to get to. And to do that, you have to go micro niche almost. Red-headed 24-year-olds who like playing on whatever.
And it doesn't mean that you've only got one micro niche.
No.
You might
No, it's
have
just
different
Ideally, you have
micro
100.
niches.
Look, often you
but a
actually
different
have-
message
But at
or the
least
right
5.
message for each one.
Yeah, so you have multiple kind of key avatars, but you need to change your messaging to that. And
That's
often
right.
people go, "Oh yeah, well we want to talk to all of them," so we try to put that into one message, and it's like as if you're having a phone call with 5 different people at the same time. You can't have a decent conversation. And again, my point about the personal relating. So the
That's
more
right.
tailored I can make it to them, it will resonate more with them.
Yeah.
The other thing is also that I find often that people sort of take their target market sort of at face value.
Yeah.
And a great example for that is recently I had someone approach me at an event, and they had beard oil that they brought to the market.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh yeah, and we need help, and we want to do PR, and rah, rah, rah. And I said, well, so who's your target market? And they looked at me.
Men with beards.
Men with beards, hello. And I said, well, are you sure? And then
Yeah.
they looked at their sales, and all the guys with the beards, they were
Wives
saying, oh yeah,
and
of
daughters.
course. So the girl who checked on she said, well, actually, 80% of our sales have been to women. Hello. So it's actually the women are
Beautiful
buying
women
men.
buying
It's
for the
gift
men.
buying.
Of course.
Exactly. If
Yeah.
you're going to have a beard, all right, at least all the bloody thing, right? So it's just often...
So they forget
Very few.
it's not the user, it's the purchaser.
Yes.
Right.
And it's actually just while you're talking about that, there are only very few things in life that guys make the purchase decisions around. Cars, I think baby car seats in the baby space was about the only thing we identified, and grooming things, it's often the wife or girlfriend or the partner of whatever who is going to the supermarket and buying that
Yeah.
those sorts of things for them.
And particularly we find even like with car purchases, financial products, that kind of thing. It's been a big,
Won't buy
like
it
tradition has
until-
always been marketed to men, and it's been over the last 20 years a big shift away from that. So now there's about, I think, over 70% decisions are made by women or influenced by women. So a lot of the marketing you can see in advertising and PR has really shifted towards the female audience.
So the first thing we need to look at is really who is your niche target market.
Yes, you have to
Then-
identify your target market.
That's number
to know
one.
what-
And then the next thing is know your objective.
Yeah, I would say I'd turn that around actually. I'd say
Okay.
first, what do you want the PR to achieve?
Okay.
Secondly, who are you talking to? Thirdly, what media are they listening to, watching, reading? Is it podcasts? Is it radio? Is it whatever?
So even when it comes to your objective, it could be that you are wanting to sell a product, but you've got to do it in a soft sell way. Or you're wanting to give value in some way as well. I've got here just a comment that
Remind
was
us
made.
what we said.
Yeah, that's all right. A comment that was made on our call. No one is interested in products or sales. It's about insight and giving
Yeah.
value. It's a story behind why you do what you do or why you sell what you sell. And I think you had said this too, Erik, that it brings your brand top of mind. It's the sprinkling of the seeds.
Yes.
Yeah.
You asked before about sort of what consistency means, and like if you take a handful of peas and you kind of throw them in the air, the way they drop, right, that pitter patter, and it's that sort of pattern that I sort of
Nice
use as a
analogy.
metaphor that you want to sort of achieve across different media platforms, because
Yes.
we all know that now for someone to maybe shift themselves from consideration or investigation mode to be ready to purchase or to engage with a brand takes about 12 to 22. It's going to go above that even.
I was
in
going to
terms of
say, it
touch
used to be
points.
five
Right.
times you had to see
Now they're
someone.
saying it's going to be to 25 or 27 or something over the next 5 years. So we're looking at needing to literally sort of put these little sort of tidbits along
So
the
you're seen
pathway that
everywhere.
our ideal audience may travel along their daily life, along their consumption of media and information and so forth, so that by the time they've hit a few of those things, going, oh, I saw this thing about this something somewhere. Oh yeah, they're really good because I saw it somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't remember. Like we're terrible. Like particularly with smartphones now, we're great at forgetting stuff.
Yeah.
So once we sort of get this top of mind awareness, is really just that we have a seed, as you said, planted, so that when we hit it again at the right time, we go, oh yeah, they're really good. I know that I've heard about them.
That's right.
Right? And it's true, right? And that we've heard. I mean, we're not doing smoke and mirrors and bring the dark lord into the light or something. There's relevance to it.
Although we used to, I think, PR used to.
Oh.
In the old days, it was all smoke and mirrors. But now,
Well,
changing.
then you can go and take it into propaganda. I mean, look, there's different arenas. As my heritage, I shouldn't really say that. But but I mean, look, there's different segments of PR too. So like when you
Yes.
look crisis management, for an example, I would not recommend for
that's what
business people or companies or something to go and call media themselves and trying to, oh yeah, please don't write this about us, because it's just going to put petrol on the fire.
Yep.
And there's sort of different areas of public relating or personal relating
Corporate
or audience
relations.
engagements and that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
or internal
Events.
stakeholder relating, that kind of stuff, where you maybe shouldn't be doing it yourself. There's definitely areas where you can,
Yeah.
and you have to be really aware that you understand that you can't sell yourself to them although you sell yourself to them, it is more so a very gentle, soft sell, edifying approach to going, dear God journalist, what do you think about this story idea? Because it is this benefit to your audience, and it may be relevant, timely, or piggybacking on something, a current topic or something. And I've got a comment here, or I can elaborate on it.
That's right.
If I say, look, I'm really good at this, and you should write about me because I'm so good at it, they just go.
No,
and
they don't.
send
They
you
go,
to the-
advertising department, we've got a new customer for you.
Right, and once you're done, that advertising should
It's hard
be
to get out.
impossible to get back out of
So
there.
at the end of the day, it's really about giving value to your clients, which is imperative. I want to talk about the very first things that we should look at wanting to do PR, and one of the things we were talking about is decent photography.
Oh gosh, yes.
So tell me about what decent photography is.
Okay, decent photography is not taken on your phone.
Okay.
Decent photography is taken by a
I
professional.
like taking it on my phone.
I know, and that's fantastic for social, but if you ever read a magazine or a newspaper, particularly a glossy magazine where you think the photo might have been taken on the phone, they are beautiful
I
photographs.
don't remember the last time I read a glossy magazine.
All right, think of a digital... Unless you're in a news story... Anyway,
Yeah, go on.
unless you're in a news story, it is so worth spending $500 or $1,000 on getting a professional to come in, take loads of different shots. So especially if you don't have a big budget, think about all the different ways that you're going to be wanting to do PR. I was just in the last couple of days helping a couple of people, and I'm like, think about the times of year. So think about what sort of story you're going to put out at Christmas. What sort of story you're going to put out at Easter, and could you put Easter eggs in your head when you've got the photographer there? Do the headshots, do the shots that that illustrate your business. That's probably the most important shot to get, or shots to get, just different ways. And then think of different angles, think of different things you say, and how can you illustrate those?
So you were talking about things like become emotive.
I'm an
So-
emoticon, I said.
Become an emoticon.
A human emoticon.
A
Just,
human
if you haven't
emoticon.
got a huge budget, get a photographer against a white wall to just take a whole lot of shots of you making different faces and
So
doing
is
different
this
gestures.
tearing your hair out? You might be like,
Yeah, yeah.
Or take a whole lot of different
Yeah,
types of
I
shots.
do one that I use a lot, like, and it's like, are you shocked at the price of PR? Sorry. But you know, that's it. You can, or I do, just trying to promote your business, make you want to pull your hair out, or
Recently I saw, and I don't remember where I saw it, but it was a group of speakers, and they were showing pictures of the speakers, and the one that stood out for me was the emoticon speaker, I guess, because they were talking about what it was, but it was more animated than all the other ones. All the other ones were normal headshots. We got made meal, guys.
ooh,
Look, on that, I'd like to just
Yeah,
add,
keep going.
because
Photography.
traditionally we've got sort of
Hold
the...
that thought for just 1 second.
looks great.
He's just going to say what the meal is and then go
Oh,
for it.
okay, of course.
Lamb rump.
mm.
We've got a lamb jus, vegetable risotto,
Thank
and
you.
Mediterranean vegetables with a pesto.
And what are our little flowers, decorations?
They are rosemary flowers.
Rosemary,
Oh,
From my
nice.
garden.
Awesome.
They are gorgeous. Look,
Gorgeous.
rosemary flowers.
Post.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh.
My
No,
bad, thank
yeah,
you very
sorry.
much.
That is really good.
Yeah, I've been really enjoying
It is really good.
Nice.
You're welcome.
I'm just a slow drinker.
And keep going back.
Sorry,
photography,
Okay,
because
so
I
what's
wanted
just
to give some
with
examples as well.
with the photography, like often we sort of go, often clients come
Delicious, thank you.
with this idea that, oh yeah, we need a media shot, so they give you that standard corporate kind of,
Yep.
with a bland background and then just
Headshot or
like
people
this,
in
and not
suits.
even the smile, so it's like a passport photo. Nobody's going to be interested in running that. And the other extreme of that is that people like have a photo and then they stick their logo in it and their like website or something. Nobody will ever run anything that's branded.
So really, you've got to be different.
Yes, and
And
the
it's
key
got to be
thing
high
to
quality.
the
And
key
it's gotta be
thing to
original.
understand is, like we talked about, like we want to have message that engages the target audience, but our immediate target audience is actually the media, not the audience of the media. So we got to win them over first. So we need to play to them, right? And while we might have our ideal message to the audience we want to reach, we actually got to formulate it or play it so that there's benefit to the media, that it's easy for them. If I help them, they help me.
And
Whether I'm a PR agency or my business, it doesn't
right.
really matter. So if I have a strong image, an engaging headline, a well-written, timely, not salesy,
Article,
but
media release.
relevant article, and relevance is a big resonates or brings value to their audience, they're not going to get their interest.
So what information does help the media?
I want to go back to photography. I haven't finished
Oh,
it.
sorry.
Okay, yeah, go with photography.
come back
All,
to
Dig
that.
all
into
I
this.
wanted to
So go
say
on,
with
I'll come
photography is I work very, very closely with lots of journalists because they come to my events now. And I have heard time and time again two things about photography. One is the bane of their life is trying to find a shot to go with a story. So if they have to go and find it, you're already 2 steps behind everyone else, which you don't want to be when you're in a fight to try and get a recognition from a
Is it all right?
journalist.
It's all good.
Oh, okay. Cool. Just checking.
And so the first thing is, I can't remember what I was saying now. What was it?
The pain of the media is finding a good shot.
That's right. And then the second thing is they're looking for original photography, and people need to sort of think how you can show your business if it's a service business. Now, the only other thing I just wanted to mention about PR, because I used to do loads of product PR, is product PR is completely different to what we're talking about. It's all about the photo, and the journalist will say, if you give me a great photo, I will make the story work. I'll work with you to get that story to work because I want that image so badly. So that's how important a photo is.
Okay.
And product PR is super easy because you really need to do 1 or 2 paragraphs just to get featured in what's new, products we love, hot things this month.
So what would you put in
Those
those?
kind of
What would you
pages.
put in those paragraphs?
I would say some snappy headline, ideally with some humour in it, but 6 to 8 words as a headline. I would do a paragraph that explains literally in 3 or 4 sentences what the product is and why it's there. I would do another very short sentence to say this is what it's made of, or it comes in these colours, or whatever. And then at the bottom you do a line saying, go to this website to purchase and this is how much it costs.
Okay.
And that's pretty much all you need to do. And it's really easy, and it's one of those weird things with PR that you can send it out to loads and loads of magazines. So when it comes to product, they're not looking for that exclusive that I'm sure we're going to talk about later, that they are in the news media and the magazines. So that, which explains why if you look in the weekend media, sometime you go, whoa, I know someone who's been doing a campaign this weekend, and you just see, you open all of them and they've all got in the hot product sections or over a month, these are the same product appearing everywhere because they're not precious about getting a story that's just for them, which magazines, newspapers, radio and TV are.
Okay.
And again, the image needs to be sexy. So you need to have good quality, high resolution, sharp, deep edge, and in situ. So the difference, for those who don't know, deep edge means where it's just the product, so with a plain white background, no reflections and all that fancy stuff, but just the product cut out. I deal with the transparent background, so you can literally just stick it anywhere on the page. Because if you've got it set on a table setting, then you end up with half a table cut in to put other,
Style it up.
Unless they do, they ask for an in situ image because it suits the thing that they're doing, or they ask sometimes maybe on the back of your pitch, they say, well, look, we're doing a shoot, can you send the product and we're actually going to shoot it in situ themselves, and they have the vase and the cushion and the pillow and the whatever, and it's all one thing, and then you get your little blurb next to it. But I totally agree, different to the personalized story, pitching, resonating to your target market and bringing value and all of that. With product, you can literally just sort of get those key elements, strong photo, catchy headline, application, and you can just...
And ideally with your photography, think about who the end users are too. So if you want to go to the banking industry, then you want some photos and you want people to use your service, then you want to show people who look like bankers using your service. If you want older women as your target market, get your mum or your grandmother to come in, or pay for a model, obviously. If you're targeting mums, then get those 3 types of mums, or set it up so that you've got a mum with a briefcase, you've got a mum with a whatever. But you need to engage people and have them basically put themselves in that photo and imagine themselves in it. Whether it's a service or a product, you want people to relate to it.
So that's one type of story, and then the other type of story is their journey.
That's one of another type of story.
Yeah, one of another
There's
type.
so many different ways that you can come up with.
So with the journey that someone's taking, what type of photograph would you use for that?
Look, I really believe in having a variety of photos. I mean, you want to have something that's sort of like the hero shot, we call the key, sort of encapsulating, that catches you, that might relate a little bit to what it is you're doing, or what your service or your story is, or your product and so forth. I mean, ultimately, there's always a sales element to everything. You just got to kind of water it down, make it warm and fuzzy, and cloak it enough so that it will just slip through to not end up in the advertising shoot. And if there's value to the readers, and that's where there's relevance, and timeliness is really, really important. So I think from the feedback I've gotten from over the years, and it's been, you know, years and years now in the industry.
I was waiting to see
yeah,
how
yeah,
you were going to say.
I don't dare to remember. No.
Back when Noah was around in the ark.
Yeah, yes. You know, here it was the scroll. Hearsay. Debbie's got a new product. so the image is always an important thing. But having diversity of images can also mean that whether you get a snippet with one photo and 150 words, or whether you're going to get 5 images, a double-page spread.
So you're saying
and of
give
course,
them
the
extra
impact
photos.
is massively different.
That's right.
So when people go, oh yeah, but I sent you one. Oh, can't you send you one off my phone? It's like you're basically putting the handbrake on what I can do for you.
That's right. You're adding a complete other step.
So
and
I'm
it's
gonna-
gonna go,
I'm going to go back to if you're talking about your journey, and you're saying a hero shot, what different shots would you use for that?
Well, look, when we're talking about the journey particularly, like there's somewhat always a degree of the hero's journey in there, and that's like common in any TV show, in any Netflix, in any movie. You know, it's like the villain, the almost missing and not
Overcoming
falling in love, and in
obstacles.
the end save the world and they get the girl. So you know, it's like that sort of journey. So you need to kind of translate that, and if you can do that visually, as well as through the story you're telling, then you get real engagement, and that's when you get buy-in from the reader. A really good article. I mean, that takes me to the point that we actually don't write press releases. I don't think I've written more than press releases, maybe
Good point.
12 over the last 15
But we need
years.
to just discuss what they. So we don't do big, broad, just whoever wants it anymore because it doesn't work. Which is what press. I've been using the wrong word. I
So what's a
realised
press
recently.
release?
Well, ask Erik because
What's
he's
a
probably
press
got a
release?
good
So press
definition.
release traditionally is more like an announcement,
Oh,
and
okay.
it's usually starts with, you know, Melbourne, 17th of October, you know, Joe Blog of XYZ companies just, you know, become the CEO or whatever, or he's just launched a new product, and we are the market leader, and we look forward to that, and we this and we that, and me.
We are proud to announce blah
Right.
blah blah.
And it's like that, and then they send it to media and expect it to run. So the big thing with PR, I mean, apart from that, a lot of business owners don't understand PR per se. They also don't understand the journey that it takes to get actually published. And that means you need to understand what happens inside the media house. So if they get a press release, the chief of staff eventually, in most places, will probably end up with it. And there's the one that divvies out the work, right? So they're not going to write anything, and they're not going to, you know, but they're the one that says, oh, this sounds interesting. Well, look, maybe we can use this as a backup story for if this one falls through or something, because they have deadlines. And then it's divvied out to their 20-odd journalists or whatever it is. Different if you've got a small team, you've just got an editor, a journalist, and a photographer. Then, of course, their relationship is much closer. Usually the advertising person sits in the same room, so that wall between the two gets paper thin. So it's really important to understand who you're dealing with, who you're talking to. But in a larger organization, the chief of staff, he or she will basically divvy out the stories.
Yeah.
But if you get a press release, that thing spells work, right? Because you can't run it like that. You can't just run Joe Blog here, this and that, and you do that for 5 people. Your newspaper is not worth reading.
No, that'll only work in an industry magazine or newspaper where they'll put a little snippet saying so and so's got a new cannery line, or you know.
Yeah. So often you find with those membership publications that used to really run, you know, proper content and everything, and they try to reduce costs or something like that. They just go, oh, we just run press release, we get them anyway, and then the quality and the value that it brings to the readers just goes out the window. So essentially, a journalist then has to kind of water that down, maybe call the person that it's about, call the Joe Blog and find out what really, and put it into format that is an article. So we're going to save this whole loop.
By doing that in the first place.
Right. So we actually
Write it
write
as if
ready
you're
to
the
publish
journalist.
articles
Yep.
in a journalistic style. So I might write, oh, you know, in the market field where we're seeing, slowing of manufacturing. Well, here's Joe Blog from XYZ company, and they've just launched into new manufacturing plant, and despite the slowing in retail, they find there's greater demand across the country and overseas, for example, right? So then they, oh well, that's actually really well and so, and they go, oh, I didn't know that. They might call and check a fact, or they just change the headline, put their name to it, and run the bloody thing. And that's in a way an ideal outcome, especially if a business themselves does the outreach.
And then if we were to go back to talk about the difference between online or offline or traditional media and digital media, the beauty of digital media is if you can give them a fully fledged article that they can cut and paste with an image, might get published in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, literally at my events, people have sent it out 15 minutes later, they've been published, if it's digital. So that's never going to happen in a magazine. There's all sorts of lead times, and the same with newspapers.
So really, you need to have written it all beforehand, get it all done, so they don't have to do any work.
You just need to do that anyway. Yep.
Okay.
These days, write the article. Remember, it's not about you, it's about their readers. They're not interested in you, except how you can affect them.
And a lot of the magazines and newspapers now have the digital as well.
That's right, that's right. But you always want to, I mean, these days still, I would say the ideal is to get into print because you'll always get online.
Right.
But if you can't make it into print because of deadlines or because they're full, always ask if you can go on the website.
Okay.
Because often they'll put different content online because they like to freshen it up, and, you know, Google and all the rest of it like to see content change all the time.
So just to recap on what we're saying, so know your message, know your target market, know the best media to target what you're actually wanting to write the article for. So what's the best media for the target market?
Right.
So
Because the
think
best
about
way to
what they
piss
do.
off a media channel is to send them completely something that's irrelevant to them and the audience. Because you do that twice, and they'll just blacklist you.
Lovely.
Right? And that's, of course, you can't come back from that. So you really want to know. So
That's
rather
right.
than doing the public relating, shooting it off to 50 media, you're better off hand feeding it, find out
Offering
who
it
it is.
to one at a
Dear
time.
John, I just thought this may be relevant to your audience, or the point we're raising is really, timely. What do you think?
And
right?
what-
Engage them.
And what they really, really love is if you can say, you know, that section in your magazine where you feature, small business owners towards the back. That's the bit that I thought this story, and they'll be like, oh my God, they've read it, they understand my market, they know what I'm on about.
get it.
They get it. So what they don't want, and I did catch someone doing this once, was sending out Yogi Bear chocolate release, scattered it to everyone, sent it to the Chief of Staff for the Fin Review. What's he going to do with it other than get very cross? So, yeah, you do need to think about who you're talking. I mean, if you wanted to send it to the Fin Review, perhaps there would be a slender chance if you said, people who work in corporate offices often hit the slump at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and, often think about snacks, and have you
So
thought
again,
about
you're
this chocolate
targeting it the
bar?
right way.
That's right. I'm
It's
talking
because-
to,
yeah.
and I put it in Australian banking and finance, and I talk about how banking is really exhausting, and at 3 o'clock we all hit the
And
wall.
Yogi chocolate snack.
But not, Yogi, have a new chocolate. How great, you should do it, because the guy's going to go, oh my God.
Just to get, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Just to continue with the recap too. So Beacon for over a certain amount of time. So 30 to 40 articles, and you mentioned 2 to 3 articles weekly or even monthly, which is okay.
Monthly. Yeah, weekly.
Monthly.
I mean, you'd be doing incredibly well if you've got them weekly.
Now, I wanted to have a look at crafting your message and talk a bit more about that. What do people need to look at a bit more in regards to actually crafting the message? So I know that we said that, well, beforehand, you want a headline that's sexy.
And the food is
And
amazing.
short,
Isn't it
and the
lovely?
food is amazing.
I just had to I know you were talking, but I was
No,
just
that's
sort
okay.
of culinary sort of escapism here, so sorry.
You've got the Italian music, you've got the Mediterranean food,
I
you've
know,
got the
fabulous.
amazing drinks.
Really
you
interesting
know.
conversation, really enjoying this. And I bet the food just took me away
Yeah.
for a second there, sorry.
Don't be sorry.
I'm
It's all-
completely picking out. I'm way ahead
It's
of you.
all good. What is some examples of some sexy headlines?
Well, I'll tell you one that I did that'll give everyone a bit of a laugh. In fact, I didn't do it, my business partner at the time. So I had an agency. It was my partner's brother-in-law who had a framing business in Camberwell in Melbourne. So already we're very small and micro, you would think. So we thought, what could we do? And we thought the best way to get that story out was to offer hints and advice around how to hang things on wall, whether you cluster them in groups, what kind of wall
5
fittings.
steps to this, or yep.
And the title for the media release was Are You Well Hung? Which in a very few short words got the interest of almost everyone who opened it, and that guy got about 30 articles published just because that he got people to open it and then have a giggle over it and think probably our readers would probably get a giggle out of this too. Let's just put it in like it is. So a really good headline explains what it is, or plays on words, or is very humorous. So what you don't want is 2 sentences. You want to get it down to 6 or 8 words. And I always say, if you can do a pun, think of the Herald Sun, which pun incredibly well, even though it's a very trashy magazine or newspaper a lot of the time. But you know, those puns make it hilarious. You know, when they talk, I can't even. I'm terrible off the top of my head.
A little play on words, a little bit of humour, as you said. I think that's really good.
And
I
to
think
the
keeping
point.
it really
Short.
Short and to
Yes,
the point.
and it wants to. Ideally, you want to sort of, you know, already give a hint, but you don't want to overtell the story, right? Because, like, ultimately, both for the journalist, whom you need to win over first, but ultimately for the audience that you're speaking to, if you're spelling it out too much in your headline or in the first paragraph, there's no reason to read on, right? When we send things to the media, for an example, we always have a preamble. In the preamble, I only hint at what the thing is about. Because if I tell them, oh, this article talks about this and that, what do you think? They're not going to read the article, right? We're lazy.
So
I
with the
think there's
preamble, you're talking about the email that goes with the media reads, yeah.
Yeah. I had something else that was top of mind just then, and it's just sort of slipped off the.
I
just
think
then.
we might have
Oh,
done.
look! Talking about images, I just remembered something. This is going back a few years, and that it's a bit like the great goal I kicked when I was 12, you know. But you always remember that. So like this is going back quite a few years. I was in the lead up to the 2000 Olympics. And of course, everything was focused on the Olympics, and then they took down the thing for the Paralympics, and everyone got their nose out of joint about that, rightly so. And not a long while after that, I was working with a golf training, coaching kind of technology. And technology, golf, you know, sporting, it was sort of the scope for the media landscape, right? That we sort of, so we got that, and I was sort of exhausted. And I was working with an agency in Sydney at the time, and so they always came to me and said, oh, you know, like, we've done everything, the obvious. Well, here you go, see what you can do. And so I married it up. I found out that we've actually got more high, like, global international title winning amputee golfers in the country than we have able-bodied golfers.
Isn't
So
that
on the back of this Paralympics, you know, mishap, so to speak, that was a really well-timed scenario. So I married the two up. They sponsored the Australian Open that took place in Canberra at the time. And talking about the image, we had images that ran for literally a half a page of the Australian sports page, where you've got the golfer standing there with, you know, the swing, the ball's going up the green, and they're standing on one leg and the other leg's lying in the grass. So talking about a picture telling 1,000 words, right?
Yep.
But it just brought so much interest, just because it was like there was so much unknown about it, and the images really supported it. We took some really clever headlines with it that we literally got every paper in the country, we got every sporting publication, everything
It is,
golf,
isn't it?
It's amazing.
and we got sponsorships of it. We got, you know, people that, you know, like, it just really actually invigorated and put the Amputee Golf Association of Australia on the map, sort of thing. So it's like, it was a real win-win, which I like creating in that scenario, because in a way, in my mind, PR is about creating win-win.
It
You
is.
don't pay, you add value, you kind of, you know, you help the media, you help the client. But that was sort of one of those things where everything we've talked about so far just really kind of sort of lined up, you know.
Yeah, well,
image,
I have to
relevance.
say, when you are trying to come up with new angles all the time, it can be really hard. And one of the companies that I worked with years ago as well, it was a big chicken, a big egg company. And what
the chicken or the egg?
So it was eggs, and it was all about free-range eggs. And what they wanted to do was prove that their free-range eggs really were from happy chickens. And it was a massive corporation, so obviously everyone's very cynical. So what they did was they put a camera in their field where the chickens were, and people could go and click on it and go and have a look live at what the chickens were doing in the field. Fantastic. So the headline and the whole angle I went with was the chicken, and it was all around the time Big Brother was starting, and I was like, chickens have their own reality TV. That got picked up by loads of people as well. So if you can do the humour, you can do something that, you know, helps people get to the point really quickly, but again, be a little bit intrigued. Like, what kind of TV? That's a bit weird.
I'm
You
going
have to read down.
to interrupt us for just a moment. Now, I do know that, and I don't think I should ever do this, but I did it for the last couple of shows and it never happened. I have put down that we're going for an hour, but we still have quite a bit.
For now.
That's okay. We still have quite a bit to cover, and I kind of think that I have these two lovely people here. I'd be crazy to stop the video now when there's so much valuable information to share with you guys as well. So we're going to continue on for the moment. And if you do decide that you aren't able to watch anymore now, please, you can always come back and watch the replay as well. and watch the rest of it then too. But I do hope you do stay with us until the end, because it's a lot of valuable information. Oh, Nikki, do we have any comments? No? Cool. People are intrigued and enthralled.
Fantastic.
Okay. I wanted to also add that we were talking about follow-up emails, and that it's really important to follow up.
Super important. Super
So
important.
tell us about that.
Okay, so what used to happen, even 10 years ago, 5 years ago, was that you would send your media release out to journalists, or you would send your media pitch out to journalists, and they would respond if they were interested. And we used to do a bit of follow-up, which just means really that you go back to the journalists that haven't responded and you say, did you see this? So you're not really pitching it again, you're just prodding their memory to say, did they see it? Because what happens these days is, and it's got so much worse, I should say. So what happens these days is that we all miss emails. We are getting so many emails that you see them and you go, right, I'm going to make a note of that, I'm definitely coming back to it. Or you might even respond to the person and go, that looks great. And then you forget, life gets in the way, something else happens, what have you. So I have got a lot of people at the moment who are doing their own PR. I do a mentoring thing with them once a week, and I ask them what's happening out there, and they have told me, and I'm sure you find this in your office as well, that these days journalists are almost exclusively picking it up on the second follow-up email and not the first one. And then what I would also say to people is, even if they've picked it up the second time, people will still miss it. So if you've sent out a media release and you haven't had any response at all, you must do follow-up.
So what do you say on it?
In the follow-up email, you say, well, I used to say literally, hi, just checking you saw this, are you interested? Love, Jules. Now I take it a little bit further and I might give them a couple of lines that says, hi, I really think this was relevant to your audience because you're all golfers and this is a great thing about amputee golf, blah, blah, blah. Please read my media release below. But it is not a big, long letter. It's certainly not a demanding kind of a thing. You have to be, if the journalist does a story for you, you need to be very grateful. And we should talk afterwards about saying thank you, because I've asked about 20 journalists now, does anyone ever say thank you afterwards? And they go, hardly ever.
Yeah.
People are all over me like a rash because they want the story. They never even tell me thank you afterwards,
So by
or
saying
how it
thank you,
affected them.
they're going to stay top of mind as well.
So I've got a few journalists
And
who've said,
everything reflects like that. It's like ultimately
That's
it's
right.
the
Manners.
taste you're left with in the mouth
That's
afterwards,
right.
right? And I mean, with this, it's a pun, but no, I think there's so much that falls into this to really understand who you're dealing with and what their reality is.
that's right.
Then a lot of deadline and pressures. They have to deliver content, and they have people breathing down their necks. Where's these stories? You got to come up with so many stories a day or a week, or there's the deadline and so forth. So journalists, they're people too. They have lives. They run over their kids' bike on the way to work. They run late. They spill their coffee. They whatever. They have. So if we can help them, and if we can, again, personalize that exchange. And yes, sometimes they need reminding. Sometimes they send the questions. They elaborate on the story and then run. And then you go, and say, yeah, look, we just had something else urgent.
So it just comes
Yeah.
out
It's just
as
reality. But sometimes I find even when these mishaps happen, when they say, I'm really interested, and then nothing happens, when I get back to them, they go, yeah, that's right. Then I get about 3 stories out of them.
Yep.
Right? So it's all down to human, and I make a point of saying the things that nobody else says. So like, I don't call them up and say, how are you going? Did you get my press release? Because they get 300 press releases a day, and they probably get 150 phone calls from the junior publicist fresh out of college going, hi, did you get my press
That's
release?
right.
And they're ready to shoot you.
That's right.
So
I don't think they actually get very many phone calls anymore because they've frightened everyone off. But you're right.
we actually get a lot of success out of phone calls. And
Same, because hardly anyone's doing it.
yeah, exactly. And we elevate by about 600% on the success rate. And the phone call goes something like this. I just literally go, hey, how's your day going so far?
Yeah.
I make it a question that's a little bit unusual, not the stuff where you use automatic response language. So, and I go, so far, I had the morning meeting like this, or I'm ready for coffee. I've already pulled them up into present time. So we're starting to have a conversation right here, rather than, how you going? How you going? Yeah, what do you want? Right? So it's really sort of intentional a little bit to, break the patterns and to stand apart from the rest, right? And you can do that as a business.
It's perfect if they've just
or
come
as an
back from a
agency.
holiday
And
or
it's all
something,
about
and you go,
standing
how was the
exactly
holiday? And they're
as
like,
well.
what, you care?
Particularly if you do your research. Hey, I love the column you wrote last week.
Yeah.
And when they ask me, how are you
That's
going?
perfect.
I'm going, well, actually,
I'm in a bit of
I'm
a
not going
bind.
to make. Or, you know, like, well, considering it's 36 degrees in Melbourne, we're not used to it. I'm like, I always bring humour and make it
Yeah.
personal, make it relatable. I make it about hump day, I make it about Friday. Did you draw the short straws? Well, you're still in the office too.
Yeah.
It's like all these things, right?
So you're making it personable.
Right. It's personal relating. It's not public
Build that
relating.
relationship.
Right? So, and that's where I build those value relationships. Whether I get the story then, I get it 3 weeks later, I'm basically due to get one, right?
Yeah.
If they muddle something up, then, you know, they'll give me 2 stories.
Yeah.
You know, and because of the
That's
relation,
right.
sometimes I don't get the story.
And if you give them a great story, they might give you 2 or 3 more
You
as
also
well.
and 6
mentioned-
weeks later, they call me and they go, "Hey, I've got this thing. I got to have it done by Friday. Can you get me someone getting comment on this?"
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, look, I've done that. Like, even though you know that wasn't my immediate client or that I wanted to push, I go, oh yeah, I know someone can
Let
get
me help
something,
you.
right? And then they, oh, thanks for helping me.
I
And
owe
then
you
they're happy
is
to
the
help.
What do you
subtext.
think of
There's
sauce
the-
bottle?
Oh my goodness, I love sauce bottle. So of
Sauce
course,
bottle? What's
so
sauce bottle?
okay, so the first thing you've got to realise is
Just to let you know what sauce bottle is, guys.
Yeah, I was
if you,
just
if
No,
you
don't tell them,
Go,
don't
go,
tell
on, go on, go on.
I've actually got her coming on my show. I set up my business the same week as Sauce Bottle, and so we became great mates from the beginning. So Sauce Bottle is a resource for journalists and for anybody who wants to get PR for themselves, and everyone should be keeping an eye on it. And if you've got an agency, you should be making your agency keep an eye on it. It is a free resource that journalists go on when they're looking for someone to interview or they're looking for articles to publish. So it's a nice, passive, reactive way of doing PR. You don't have to reach out to anyone. You just
They're reaching out to
respond.
us.
Having said that, you get a newsletter twice a day.
Yeah.
So while you're actively doing PR, you want to be looking at it. It'll drive you absolutely batty when you've sort of stopped paying attention to it. So you really want to just keep an eye on it all the time. It's huge opportunities. There are over 45,000 people that now get these call outs.
Wow.
So you need to react very quickly.
Right.
And you also need to put your phone number always in your response so that they can get hold of you very
Okay.
quickly. In fact, Beck from Sauce Bottle has put a little formula together of how you provide your credentials, you explain your position, you give them contact details, and then basically send it to them. Don't spend more than 5 minutes on it.
I look forward to hearing that interview.
I've got quite a few video interviews with her as well, but
Right.
she will be on She's the Boss at the end of April.
There was
Wow.
also in regards to listing another 2 or 3 topics when you send in an
Yes,
article.
I like to do that. Do you do that? I guess for the people that I am, because they're working with, because they're business owners, I want them to be able to not only build a relationship with journalists, but show the sorts of topics that they might be able to
Just in
talk
case.
about. So what I always say is if you're sending somebody an article that you've written, the best thing to do is say, "Hi Mary," or "Hi whatever your name is, please find this article that's been written about whatever. If you like this, here are 3 or 4 other suggestions that I'd be happy to write for you, or other topics." And I list literally 3 bullet points of potential headlines.
It's a great idea to do because
What happens is they nearly always come back and ask if they can have another one.
Fantastic.
And they want that one, or they want this one, or I
Yeah.
quite like that, but could you just change it so it's a bit
Well,
more towards...
Yeah, or we've just done something along those lines, but
Thank you.
interested in this topic.
That
That's
was
right.
And it means sometimes we just even pitch just like that to,
Yeah.
you know, says, hey, I've got such and such expert on this. You can elaborate on this or this topic
Yes.
if that's of interest.
That's
you know,
really good
like,
as well
and
for
then-
radio and
like at the
TV.
bottom of each one, I always say,
Thanks, Ashley,
you know, for
that
more
was good.
information, commentary, or an interview, you know, like
Yes.
we're really happy to kind of sort of do that. If you want them to elaborate on, I'm very strong on using emotive kind of language and really engaging in subtle requests, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when they, you know, like, you know, when they respond, I say, like, you know, appreciate you taking the, even if they say this is not for me. I say, well, look, thank you so much
Yeah.
for taking the time to consider it. Really appreciate it. You know,
You go, "Thanks
and
for at least
then
giving me
I
an
might
answer."
piggyback something. Is there a particular topic you're exploring, or they can
Yeah.
also talk about X, Y, Z? Or so,
So
What are
the
you
more
looking
you
for?
help them, the more they're going to help you. The more they're going to do for you. The more they're going to.
But
utilize
also, the
your
more you
articles.
talk to them, the more you'll get a
And the more
feeling
you
for
treat
what it
them
is
better
they
as
want.
well.
And if you can give them what they want, then they will keep publishing you.
Okay.
You know,
and if
they,
you build a strong relationship, sometimes they will even go, look, here's our editorial calendar for the year. So you know that the spring edition, they were going to cover this, and the
Yeah.
other. And you go, oh, great, I've got something for this. Oh, I've got something for October. And you can earmark it. You go, oh, great, we can already pre-plan it. And
That's right.
you don't have, you
So
know,
it
you don't
means
have
that
to
you
sort
can
of...
do your strategy
ad
for
hoc.
that as well.
And sometimes, as well as asking for it, the other thing you can do is go onto the media kit. So most magazines, particularly magazines, will have a media kit that they have on their website, which is how much their advertising costs. But what they tend to do is also, not all of them, but a lot of them will put in what their editorial theme is for each episode, because what they want the advertisers to do, if say it's a homewares magazine, say it's something like Inside Out or Real Living, they might say, okay, we're going to do heating in March, we're going to do green things in May, we're going to do a nautical theme in July, and you go, okay, so I'll make sure that I've got something that's relevant for those topics or those themes for those issues, because that's what they're going to be looking for.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I just on that note, I just thinking.
You go on.
We're sparking all these ideas on each other.
What I think is a big jewel, because some publications now get very cagey or cloaked in the point of giving you access to the editorial stuff.
Yes.
And you can look at their website, you look at contact, and it'll be just a form, and of course you don't want to just bump it into a form or something. But if you look at the media kit, it will usually have those things like the advertising rates, and they will have the themes that they're exploring on the next issues, and then they have the advertising salesperson, and then they've got the editor's details there.
Yeah.
So download
That
the
could be
media
in there
kit,
too.
and sometimes that's where you find your best contacts.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. We also had a look at, there was something I wanted to have a quick talk about when someone has to look at their strategy. What do they look at? What do they need to think of? What do they need to do in order to get a strategy?
Okay, so since I'm offering a strategy to
Apart from what you're offering, because I understand that they're offering a strategy which I'll talk to you about as well, or you can talk to about. But I'm just trying to find out if I want to sit down and work, like a content marketing plan or something.
Yeah.
What do I need to think about for a strategy?
So I think
initially.
Yeah, so I think we've touched on a lot of these things already, and we're kind of stepping along the path in a way, in my mind, quite neatly. And that is, like, ultimately, most people come to us, you go, here's my business, I want to make more sales, I want to make more customers, services, or product, whatever it is. And we will sort of go, oh yeah, from A to B, like, there's my buy, that's where I want to go. That's not how life is. Like, the growth chart, that it goes like this, but it's like, it's how life is, right? So if we wind this back and make it a little bit more about everything else first, not just us, then naturally we want to go, okay, so what is our target market split into? Which mum are we talking to, right? And then what resonates to them? So I might have 4 content pillars or messaging pillars I might need to look at to reach my ideal target market. So that may change actually the type of media I'm dealing with.
Yes.
The content that's featured in that kind of media, and the kind of person that runs that media, the journalist, the editors, chief of staff, etc. So that will change already. Like, I have 4 or 5 pathways rather than one direct route. And if I look at those and then go, well, how can I provide value to those people in the media? And what does their daily life look like? And how can I support them? Then they will give me what I want, and then I get there. So it becomes this kind of flowing thing, and I might have that going along multiple pathways.
So it's
And that is, in my view, if you really pack that out before, and that's a strategy.
So it's where you want to take your customer.
So that's
The
part of
journey
it.
you want to take. Yeah,
In order
go
to
on.
get that consistent, ongoing PR, which we've talked
Right.
about, the other element that I think is missing is you need to look at the year. You need to plan out 12 months and go, okay, this is Easter, this is end of financial year. So think about all the holidays that are coming up. Here's Anzac Day, here's International Women's Day, whatever it might be. And then go, okay, so how can I get an article to those women that I'm trying to get to that are in this space that's going to relate to Valentine's Day? Now, I often say to people, for instance, or to whatever time of year, but for instance, the whole beauty of PR is that we do have this spin. So you don't have to just talk about romance. You don't have to just talk about chocolates and things like that around Valentine's Day. You could be talking about how are you romancing your customers. You could be talking about 3 ways to make your customers fall in love with you. It might be how much do you love your employees. So anything that's got love, romance, whatever will fit at that time of year. Then you go to Anzac Day and it's all going to be around Australiana stuff and around anything to do with the military. Then you can go to Mother's Day and talk about. And
So
I've
really
even
get a
done-
diary and start
you
putting in all
literally,
the
if you plan
holidays
it out and you
then
go,
start
I
planning
need
it that way.
1 theme per month, you will find it's really easy to start coming up with 12
So you're
months worth of
slotting it at the
angles.
right time for when the articles are, and at the same time you're taking your clients or your customers on a journey. Or your
and
potential
the benefit
customers or
of
clients
pre-planning, or
would
the necessity of pre-planning, is that, well, some of the publications may be magazines,
Right.
and they work about like 3 months ahead.
Yeah. or
So
more.
you need to like the end of year, you need to start writing about
That's
Valentine's to them, because if you're sending it in January, February, so we're already done.
And if you
we're
were
doing
sending
Mother's
it
Day.
to a bi-monthly or a quarterly magazine now, and it's only February, you should be thinking autumn.
Okay, so is 3 months the
Or not even autumn, maybe
Depends.
winter.
Some
Maximum?
work even further.
That's
ahead.
right, might be
some
spring.
work three. Some magazines work 3 issues ahead. So
You
they're
know those
working
ones that are spring, summer, winter, you know, or spring, summer, autumn, winter, or
What's the-
January, February, March, April.
Yeah.
What's the best way to find out?
Well, you can ask them. You could always ring them and say, well, you
Okay,
know,
that's
how
a great
far
way to
ahead do
start
you
building
work?
a
Or you
relationship. Of
download
course
the
it
media
is.
kit and we'll say advertising
That's right.
deadlines are here and there, and then you
Okay.
always allow a little bit before that, because they got to plan the content, because there's always a balance of advertising and content.
That's
Right.
Any publication, doesn't matter which one you look at, there's a balance between different ratios.
Although
but the
that's going to
balance
change as
of-
advertising goes down and down and down in
Right.
mainstream media, I think.
Right, and with it we'll probably go, oh, we can't afford to run as much editorial,
That's
so we'll
right.
get tighter and tighter.
So we're going to have less journalists. We're going to rely even more on people sending us content because we haven't got enough journalists to write all the content we need.
Now, with that content, I've got here when we spoke that it should be around 500 to 600 words. Yeah? Okay.
So short and snappy. That is not long. That is an A4 page or less.
Okay, and you mentioned that if it's a pitch, a lot less.
Yeah, pitch sometimes it's just like 2 paragraphs or
So
something.
what would you pitch?
See,
Um,
I would say I would do a bit longer than 3 or 4 sentences. What kind of media? What
Oh,
kind of
would
a pitch is that?
Oh, look, when I do a pitch, yeah, maybe it's 3 paragraphs. Like, I don't believe, I like to break things up, so
Yeah.
it's, like I can glance at it, because if you write,
Okay.
you know, 2 paragraphs, but you stick it all together, I'll look at it and we're just like overwhelmed. I
Yeah.
haven't even started reading and I'm already, like, it's too hard.
Yeah.
Right? So consider the humanness.
Yeah, I
we're
see
all
what you mean.
It's got to be snappy,
we're all,
it's got to be really easy for them to
overworked
go
and
through.
overstimulated, and we're used to fast kind of turnarounds and responses through social media, and we're getting older, we don't read as well, we, you know, read is just like, you know, mental health, we all have different dispositions, so like, don't make it hard for people, make it easy, so break
Yeah,
it up.
super
Even
easy.
articles, break it up into subheadings and bullet points and things, make it
And
consumer
keep a
friendly, right?
Easy to
conversational
read.
tone.
Yeah.
Okay.
That journalists want it to be like you're talking to someone at a barbecue.
Oh, nice.
And they, in fact, are told to write as if the audience is 9 years old. So really
Yeah.
simple.
Simple.
Assume that they don't understand it. That looks beautiful,
It
actually.
does.
Yeah.
Assume that they won't understand it. Don't assume that they will. And that you don't. People worry that they're going to be
I'm
patronising
going to
people.
hold you just for a moment.
You want to tell us what
So,
it is?
what have we got here?
Grilled Australian peaches,
Yum.
Wow.
vanilla bean yogurt,
Thank you.
some organic cold pressed honey,
Right.
biscotti, which was from a local bakery up in Doncaster.
I
we've
can
got some
smell that.
Oh, it's
Um,
really,
raspberries
Yeah.
and just a little bit of almond meal just on the side, just a bit of toasted almond meal for a little bit of
Yum.
complexity.
Thank
It
you.
looks
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
actually,
Enjoy.
it looks really
Thank
nice.
you. Sorry, Jules.
What was I saying? See, I've got the
I'm
memory of
sorry,
a gnat.
sorry.
Oh, about writing for a 9-year-old, like,
Yes,
what sort of
yes,
thing?
yes, simple.
Keep it simple because
Yeah.
don't feel that you're patronising people by making it too dumb for them. You can't really make something too dumb. So I would basically say almost all media, you keep things very, very simple, explain things in a way that a child could understand, unless you're going to an industry journal and you're going, you know, you're in the computer industry and you're going to IT Weekly and talking to other people, then you can use your jargon. But really, otherwise, just assume nobody has an idea of what those acronyms mean, what that jargon is, and
Particularly
just
with
explain
acronyms,
everything.
like, always write them out.
Always.
At least the first 2 times, ideally. You know,
Yeah, we used
Yeah.
to do that in companies that I worked for because, you know, corporate companies have their own lingo and
Yeah.
you can't use the lingo
No.
with it.
And this whole, while you want to be conversational, you need to spell those things
Yes.
out. You can't abbreviate, you can't, you know, shorten or nickname kind
No.
of brands or aspects of the
No.
thing or whatever. You
But
know.
it's
Then
not
they don't know
proposal
what you're
writing.
talking
It's
about.
not,
No.
therefore, forthwith, it's not any of that kind of
It's
writing.
conversational writing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Very
can start
easy.
with an and, you can put a but in the middle of it, you know, you can do the way people speak as opposed to...
So the way I like to
As if
write
you're
is
writing
that
an
it's
essay.
actually ideally engaging through, you know, again, we said the headline and the image, and that applies to the subject line of an email as much as to the article itself and so forth. And then that it's engaging, entertaining.
Mhm.
Yeah, so sometimes I'd like to bring a little bit of play, pun, humor
Story.
in, and then it's informative.
Just
Just
have fun
something
with
that,
it.
oh,
Have fun
I
with
didn't know,
it.
because I want them to read on, right? And ultimately, that's the same with the article. So if I tell all and everything in the first paragraph, nobody's going to read it.
But
The rest, right?
But we've got to
We
jump
need
in there and go, you do have to get to the point very quickly.
Yeah.
So you really have to. I've actually, there's a great guy who works with The Age as one of the editors, who comes to my events, and he said to one of the business owners when they went, "Are you really going to read it? But what are you looking for?" And he said, "Right, I'm going to give you about 2 seconds on your subject line. If your subject line captures my attention, then I'm going to open it up, and you've got about another 3 seconds, and I'm going to read the headline and the first line. If you've got my interest, then you get another 5 seconds." And I'm going to read another couple of paragraphs.
That's an interesting way to write all your content, isn't it? No matter
well, it's
where
like
it's
you
for,
have
who
to
it's
capture
for.
their attention quickly, or they're going to move on.
You had an interesting story you wanted to tell in regards to a headache story.
Oh, the Melbourne Headache Centre. All right, so this is the dream situation. In fact, I'm really talking about like you with your amputee story that went everywhere. But this is a guy who had a technique that gets rid of migraines. So pretty unusual, but also hard to explain in an ad. And he said to me, "I think I need to get PR," because of course the other benefit of PR is you get the opportunity to explain something. You don't have to try and keep it simple into 5 words or whatever. So anyway, he came to me and he said, I've just started. I've got a small practice. I really want to get the word out. I'm doing something that's really innovative. It's called the Watson technique, which is this. You learn a lot in PR about obscure things. So it's a way of manipulating your neck, and it actually has a 95% success rate.
Okay, we all need his number.
Oh yeah, Melbourne Headache Clinic, amazing.
Oh,
Anyway,
okay.
so Roger, who runs that, said to me, "Okay, I'm going to write a media release," and I helped him, and we wrote, and I said, "If you're going to do a release, people's eyes are going to glaze over if this is all about the technique. Let's tell a story. So have you got a customer or a client or whatever it's called in Physioland?" And he said, "Yes, I've had this woman who's been having migraines all her life, every week or more, all her life. When she came to me, she was like 28, she was beside herself. I did the technique, it completely went, and she hasn't had a migraine for 2 years." And I went, "She sounds like somebody would be happy for you to do a story on her." And he said, yeah. So he rang her. She said yes. So therefore, we had a story that we could tell. So we went to pitch it to the Herald Sun. We pitched it to Susie O'Brien, who's a contact of mine. Susie said, "It's great, but it's not for me." So she then sold it into the editor for him. The guy said, "Yes, okay, it's all on." So they came in and did a shoot of him manipulating someone's head, did the story, and it was coming out on Tuesday in the Herald Sun. So what happens with newspapers, and I think it's something that a lot of people don't realise, is that newspapers really lead the radio and the TV news for the day. So they read those headlines at 2 o'clock in the morning when the newspaper first comes out.
Right.
They open it all up and they go, "Right, let's see who we can get hold of today to get an interview to be able to turn this into a bigger story." He was on page 3. 6 o'clock in the morning, then on the Tuesday morning, his phone started buzzing. And it was a text saying, "Hi, I'm the producer of 3AW. Can you please come on to explain our technique?" Well, he was so green that he thought it was his mates taking the mickey, and he ignored it 3 times until the guy actually rang him. He said yes, and he rang me afterwards and he went, "Oh my God, I've just had like a 5-minute interview on 3AW. I'm still shaking, but I'm buzzing." And I was just so excited for him, and I said, "Well, just let's see what comes from this." So he gets into the office. Phone's ringing off the hook anyway because it's been in the paper and now the 3AW thing. And all of a sudden, every single one of the evening news rang him, all wanting to interview him and for him to demonstrate his technique. Lovely situation. He couldn't fit in the ABC and SBS, but he got all the others. Went on the news that night. As soon as the story finished, he started getting a hit on his website every minute for the next 3 hours.
That's fantastic.
It gave him 7 months worth of business in the first 2 days after that. He ended up having to get new offices, new staff, whatever. Now, that was one media release, and it was free. He just had to come up with a good enough story, and then it just runs. And that is the beauty of PR. It's the gift that keeps on giving. And on top of that, because he had so much exposure, Channel 9 keep going back to him. He's been on A Current Affair as the headache expert. 3AW use him as the headache expert. He is now the go-to guy for the media when they're looking for someone to talk. So that is what can happen if you use the power of PR. And really, whether you do it yourself or somebody else does it for you, it is, I believe, something that every single business owner should be doing.
And
But see, like the big point,
that's right.
what we talked about earlier about like not making it about yourself. Like, here's the story of a woman that suffered for 20 years
And
now
how
she
it
does
cured.
it, right? That's relatable. There's people out there suffering. If he says, "I'm great at stopping headaches, it doesn't matter how long you had it," nobody would be interested.
No. And if he'd gone,
Right.
There is
And
a way
that's
of getting rid of headaches, and what you do is you manipulate the 15th vertebrae, and you do whatever. Also, no one
Keep
will be
it
interested.
simple, keep
It's
it
the
simple.
human aspect of it that
Right,
people
and
want.
that's where you're talking about the storytelling rather than the product.
Yeah.
And it's about the story, and
that's-
it's about them, the reader, right? Not me that I fix it or I'm great at fixing it. It's about this woman that's, you know.
It's about
yeah.
how can you help me. It's about, and I don't care that you have such and such, but how can you help me?
And that's why I really wanted to do this segment on PR and media, because, you know, we talk social media content all the time, but we don't really talk PR and media, and people don't know the difference as well. And I think I'm just going to put this on hold for one moment. We've got another drink coming from Monsieur Cocktail, and it
I
looks
get the
absolutely
perfect view of
amazing.
him making his cocktails there.
Oh, you can come and do that
Come and
here
do
if
it
you
so
want.
people know what you're up to.
All they can hear is a shaking. I don't know what's going on.
So, just shaking your drinks.
If you want to come over here so
And,
they can
and
see.
what are you shaking? What's in
So
there?
we're shaking the next experience for you guys, which is a non-alcoholic tequila. We have a non-alcoholic Aperol.
A non-alcoholic
Tequila.
So that's
I
one
know, right?
tequila, two tequila, three
Possible?
tequila still sitting here.
It's made locally, actually. It's an Australian company. They're doing very, very good
Spirits that are non-alcoholic.
non-alcoholic
That's
spirits.
amazing.
Basically, it is,
And it's got the right
very,
I'd
flavour.
love
very
to do
trendy.
PR for them.
That
This is
Negroni
crazy.
was
I can
beautiful.
put you in touch. They're very. It's in trend in 2020 as well. There's a lot of people who made choice to don't drink
Yeah.
alcohol.
But you don't want to like be the one. I'll just be the one on the lemon, lime, and bitters, right?
That's right. When you can
And you
have
still
an
want to
experience with
enjoy
your friend
the
at
experience
table,
of, like as you said, it's the experience of
Of
the
the
drink, the
flavours
cocktail,
and
the
that.
kind of thing.
It's tangy. It's
Ooh.
orangey. It's
I feel like I'm on an
Oh.
island somewhere.
Yeah,
that's it. We're about to
yeah,
go
we
there.
can feel the sand between the toes already.
Oh, yeah, well, speaking of that, just wait. There's sand coming up.
Oh wow!
Look at those little beach umbrellas.
I have photos of this that Max has already given me that I will put into the video to show you what it looks like, because it smells very tropical, but it looks absolutely amazing.
Gorgeous. Look at
And you know
this.
what? Talking about, this is really perfect. Talking
Yes, I'm
about,
going to do it this way. No, I'm just going to do it this way so people
can see
as
it.
well.
It's got sand,
The
popcorn
beach club.
shells. It's got.
Oh, I'm at the beach.
Oh my God!
It says the beach club over
It's-
here.
Oh,
you
look,
can
it's got
see.
a little shovel and
everything.
It's got a little shovel. It's
You can make a
got
sandcastle.
It's got a starfish.
Oh, this is
So you
awesome.
have kinetic sand inside. It's an indoor sand. Feel free to grab it with your hand.
Cheers, guys.
It's a touching element. It's part of the experience.
Oh, so
Cheers.
you can knit it.
Cheers.
My son used to have it when he was fidgety at school, and the teacher said,
Cheers.
"Have that." Cheers.
Cheers.
Lovely to be here. Thank you very much.
Oh,
My
it's an
pleasure.
indulgence.
Can you? That's like you
Wow,
wouldn't.
that's so
you wouldn't know that
punchy.
wasn't alcoholic.
No.
That's
You,
fantastic.
that actually
It's
tastes
really-
alcoholic.
Yeah.
So we work very hard on each cocktail to make it as close as the original. So
Sorry, they can see.
you can
Amazing.
actually taste a little bit of the tequila. The Aperol is actually coming through very nicely.
Is that non-alcoholic?
It is an alcoholic. I'm not tricking you, David.
No, no, no. It's like it's towards the end of the show. It's okay.
Yeah, I think
Erik, please open your eyes.
I'm telling you, this tastes like an alcoholic drink.
It's
Yeah, you would
amazing.
not know the
It's
difference,
Really
huh?
delicious.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Wow.
And then feel free to grab your popcorn on the side. That goes very well with the drink. That's going to add a bit of a buttery aftertaste.
Oh,
in the
yum.
back of your palate. And of course, easy to have popcorn at any time. That's it.
Thank
Also,
you.
you
Look at
can
them.
enjoy
Look at
the
the ocean.
soundscape
Yeah,
of the
we've got
beach.
the ocean now.
You will listen a wave crashing on the beach and seagulls singing.
We've gone from the main part of Italy to the seaside of Italy, which is quite beautiful. This is really, really lovely.
with the blue and white striped umbrella and everything. I just wanted to, if I can quickly piggyback on, which another term in PR
Yeah, yeah.
that we should explore actually, but on what we just talked about, and that is where, sort of how the relevance and the timing and the, making it about the story is so relevant, and to understand what happens on the media side internally, like that,
Yes,
that
yeah,
big
yeah, yeah, go,
machine
yeah,
in between. So we're working with a client
Oh, there's more.
in Sydney at the moment, and they're like,
Oh, hang
Okay,
on.
guys,
Oh,
sorry.
Beach packet, when you think it's finished, it's never finished. More than a drink, an experience. And here is the sea
Wow.
fog. If you grab the smoke, you actually smell like seaweed.
oh wow. Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh
is
my
that
God,
seaweed
this is
in there? Is
amazing.
that what you've
It
done?
is.
You just pour
That's
the
right, it's
ice over the
infused.
seaweed. Incredible.
This is the endless summer. Enjoy.
Well, I need to
this
have a
is
sip of my
crazy.
orange while I drink it.
Yeah, so they're an investment mentoring firm, and
Perfect for this show. Absolutely perfect. Thank you, Max. That's just
really
incredible.
gorgeous.
The guys are sitting
Very
here.
theatrical.
yeah, it's incredible.
Wow.
Yeah, so what
yeah,
happens in the media?
So like the client essentially said, well, look, we do this mentoring, which is great, and they're really good at it and have their strategy, and they stand apart from a lot in the market, but everyone's got some point of difference. And he himself holds a substantial property investment portfolio. It's a nice tool. It's a story to be told. But he was a single father of 4 that was broke and depressed and lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with the 4 kids. The daughter in
all
one
this
room,
work.
the boys in the other, and he on the couch.
The struggle
And
to
that-
success story.
And that is the story that saw it. That
Yeah.
made it relatable.
Yeah.
Sure, you can relate to the property,
It's
but
emotion.
everyone's got property. Yes. And that story first got picked up to be run online.
Mm-hmm.
Then they said, oh, let's make it Melbourne-centric, and we put it in the Herald Sun. But because it is one media house, so it's really important to know your media. Who's who and what do they run?
Yeah.
So what happened is that by nurturing the relationship during the process, that the interviews came in, and again the relevant photos, him with the kids when they're little,
Yeah.
him when he was younger, then as the kids are grown, now that he's found the success and helps other people achieve the same, get themselves change, make generational change of family, a lot of relational points, right? That's how it evolved, and all of a sudden it got lifted across all of their national mastheads, not
Wow.
only the majors but also the regionals. So now we looked at a readership reach of something like 25 million or something, so more than the national population
Wow.
in potential readership just through getting that story lifted.
And-
So it ran around the country. And it was really just on being patient and nurturing that relationship and knowing what sits behind it, how I can cater to that journalist. And he's not even a senior journalist, but then I help him to win his seniors over, and the editor that makes ultimately the decision to say, well, let's lift it. Right? And that can sometimes be the difference, and to understand that maybe it takes 2-3 weeks longer, but therefore you get a national run versus a single run on one newspaper.
Yeah, and which leads me again to another amazing benefit of PR, and we could keep talking about them forever, but that is that you can afford to get featured in media that you couldn't begin to afford to advertise in. So like a full page, or let's say you get a half-page story in The Age, if you were going to try and buy that space, it would cost you $60,000 plus probably. So, and if you wanted to get yourself onto the project, the ad breaks in the project for 30 seconds
It's
are going to be
expensive.
10 million, $10 or 15,000.
So really PR.
They would not be in trouble having
So
any
all
problems.
of
in the
this
media.
that we've
It's so expensive.
spoken about tonight is a really fantastic way that if you don't have the money, to utilise PR in the
Yeah.
best way possible.
And
too.
think big. Think about where you would really, in your dreams, love to be featured, and then approach them with a story.
But the
Excellent.
story has to be good.
It has
You
to-
can't
it has
just
to be right for
Bring
them.
them up and say, "Hey, I'm great. My business is so cool. You should write about it." And if you take
So-
that sort of
So think
approach,
of your story.
you'll burn the bridge before you
So
close
think
that
of-
door before you
So
open it.
either think of one, think of your story and why you're doing what you're doing. Or on the other hand, too, think of all the value that it can give your client or your prospective customer or your target market.
And then tie in the
Yeah.
time of year, or something that's trending in the media. So there's a guy I've been teaching who's an HR expert,
Right.
and he put his first media release out last week, but he decided to tie it into coronavirus and how that would be affecting employees in large organisations. Picked up by the Fin Review, picked up by The Age, picked up by ABC Radio. That's not bad for your first
Yeah.
attempt at doing
Not
it.
at all.
But if he hadn't gone out with coronavirus, wouldn't have been as relevant. And they might have said, great story, we'll just park it, and as soon as we've got a space, we'll do it. But because he's tied it into something that's trending,
That's what you
Tremendous
call
to get in.
piggybacking in the industry. So you piggyback onto a trending kind of
There,
topic, and you add to
Okay,
it. You
thank
bring,
you
hey, we
very,
can
very much.
elaborate. And then there's the controversial one, like where you might go, oh, well, I've got this expert, and we say something really controversial.
Yes.
Why Trump's, voting.
why
what,
lawyers should
was-
be shot, or...
yeah. So like, the more you do that, thank you. That was awesome. That
was
really
beautiful.
Yeah, so it's really know what's trending, what's relevant to the media and your audience, but will resonate with them and bring value, what's relatable. And to
don't
really
be
understand.
scared of the media is the other big thing. The huge thing I want to say
You
to
know,
you, they need you.
try.
They
Yeah.
need you.
So
I
guys,
realise we're waffling
That's
on
okay.
forever.
That's okay. So guys, they need you,
They
and it's
do
really
need you.
important that they need you because they need to put their articles out, and they can't put their articles out without subject
Without
matter.
articles.
That's it.
right.
Very
But
important.
but it's super important, as Erik and I have been banging on about, that you don't go on about yourself. Give them an article that they can use, and it's a no-brainer. They'll just take it, especially if it's got a great image that goes with it.
And it takes me
Fantastic.
back to that touch point, like that first point of approach, where apart from the sexy subject line that gets it hopefully open
Yeah.
amongst the sea of emails, but that in that first little bit that I introduce the topic and why there's a benefit to them.
That's
why
right.
I want
What's
them
in
to
it for
why
them?
they what's in it for the journalist.
What's in it for the
right?
journalist?
That makes them read on, and I just indicate what the article below is about. So that I think there's some relevant points raised by XYZ expert. I would love to hear what you think. So
Yeah.
he's got no choice but to read. If he's that far,
Yeah.
he's got no choice but to read on.
Yeah, or
Right.
if you started with, I read your article last week and I've gone online and seen that you really love this topic. I thought that, this other one that's also in the same ballpark might be of interest.
Fantastic.
You've won them over because you've paid attention and you know who they are.
Is there any last words you guys would like to say?
Last
I'm
words
scared-
for us?
I'm
Where
scared-
we
I'm
are.
scared-
Hello.
I'm
Yeah,
scared
give us
to
another
ask.
hour
I'm scared
and
to
we'll
ask.
come up with some last words.
Prepare breakfast.
Well, guys,
Other than everyone should be doing PR, whether they employ someone to do it or do it themselves, or in my ideal situation, they start doing it themselves and then as soon as they can afford someone else to do it, they do it. But do it. You're really missing a trick
no, I'm
if you're not
actually
doing
really
PR.
excited about it. I didn't know. I knew about PR and media, but I didn't know all the bits and pieces. And to break it down like we have, and to actually get that out there to business owners to utilise is really exciting. So thank you, guys.
So the
Really, really
pleasure.
lovely.
big thing with it is that if you can't afford to do any other marketing,
Yeah.
you should do PR.
That's right.
If you
Okay.
can afford to do marketing, you should do PR.
That's right.
And if you do all the other marketing, you definitely should be doing PR.
That's
right.
So
And
there's this really
and-
famous saying by Bill Gates where he said,
Yeah.
if I only had $2 left, I would spend $1 on PR.
Yes.
And also to
Right,
correlate
so-
your PR together with your social media.
I was just going to say, and of course, the absolute perfect romance match is social and PR. And really, if you can marry your PR with your social, you shouldn't need to be putting money behind it either,
No.
because it will go
Because
further.
it'll flow.
Just because
And
it's
that's
and be
again-
consistent.
Yes.
And be
And
consistent.
then you get your
yes.
and
earned
frequent.
media
And frequent.
exposure, and you
Consistent
lifted
and
your
frequent.
social, and then you earn your audience on the merit of what you get to present in your social,
And
it
they'll
just
all
tips
think you're
this whole
just the
buying for
best.
everything, paying for it out of the way. So yeah.
That's really exciting. Thank you, guys.
Pleasure.
I would like to say a big thank you to my friend Jules Brooke,
Thank you.
who also has, as we mentioned in the beginning, a great offer for our viewers as well.
Ah, yes.
So if you feel that you're PR and media ready, please get in touch with Jules.
Or if you want to know whether you're PR, so if you're sort of ready but you want somebody to talk to see whether you should be giving it a go.
Fantastic. And mention Business Dining with Deb, and she'll give you a 15-minute free call to help you take the next step that you need to. And how do they get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me via my email address, let's say Jules, Jules, at handleyourownpr.com.au. And let me just jump in and
Yeah,
say
go
I
for it.
could never keep anything to 15 minutes, so you'll probably get a lot more value than that.
If it's anything like tonight,
It's
you'll
like
be
I'll
in for
give you,
hours.
I know, I'll give you 15 minutes, but I'll
Hey,
make
you
you
know
for an hour.
what? The more information you get, the better off you'll be as well. So that's and the better off
Yeah.
your business will be too. So
That's
thank you
right.
for that, Jules.
Pleasure.
And a big thank you to my friend Erik Bigalk, who also has an amazing offer for us as well. Erik will give you a PR strategy, which is a complete snapshot of your business and a 20-page report.
Blimey.
Complete with suggested topics, stakeholder landscape, the ideal PR and media angles, and your suggested target market or target media for your business's PR campaign. Now, guys, this is, I'm just going to say how do they get in touch with you, only because this will be on YouTube for until YouTube stops, or if it doesn't.
Right. Okay.
So the price may change, but at the moment, let me tell you, the discount on this is huge, like absolutely huge.
And it's massive value. I
So
mean, that is
yeah, it definitely
humongous.
is. So mention Business Dining with Deb, and how can they get in touch with you?
Look, you might as well, same as Jules, reach out to me directly. So it's Erik, Erik, at smart-solutions.com.au.
And I'd highly recommend you do.
I highly
That's a
recommend
great
you
offer.
speak to both of these people because, you know, it's going to be absolutely amazing, and the amount of information that we've had tonight is probably only a snippet
Yeah,
of
we
what
can't
these
help
guys
ourselves,
can...
can we?
Yeah, no, it's great of what these guys can actually tell you to help you with your PR and media. And the more we can help businesses grow, the more they can employ people, the more families they can help, and it's an amazing, beautiful domino effect. And if I can help in any way, you know, it's really beautiful. I also want to thank my good friend Nikki, who's been doing everything at the back end.
Mickey, the producer.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions at all I should ask? Oh, see, you
Okay.
guys were absolutely perfect.
We've answered all the questions.
I was
before they
gonna
popped
say,
up.
Answered everything.
being
We were quite thorough, I
ripped
have to
by what
say.
we're up to.
I'd also like to thank my lovely sponsors. A big thank you to Chef Ashley Han. Oh, Chef Ashley Han. Oh, hello. From White Knight Catering Services with a K.
Food,
Thank
great
you.
food.
Bravo. That was
So-
wonderful.
It was
Guys,
really,
for
really
your
yummy.
small
White
events,
Knight and Monsieur
for your
Cocktail.
small events, your large events, and everything in between, give this man a call.
Thank you.
I'd also like to thank our other sponsor for tonight, Maximilian Beale from MonsieurCocktail.com.au, for all your amazing
amazing.
drinks. Like, these are non-alcoholic and they taste alcoholic.
very Heston
We're about to start the
Blumenthal. I
alcohol.
loved it.
It
I
is,
love
isn't
it,
it?
yeah.
Yes, very much so. So, yeah, for your beautiful drinking experience, please do give this lovely man a call as well. So also too, guys, my name's Debbie Small and I want to thank you for watching Empowerment Point TV, Business Dining with Deb, Business Treats and Takeaways. And you can watch more episodes on my YouTube channel, which is Empowerment Point TV. It's gone to my head.
That's right. The non-alcoholic.
The popcorn.
Empowerment Point TV, and do subscribe to my channel so you find out when there are more episodes coming on board as well. And if you'd like to have a chat with me about your business, whatever it may be, send me an email at hello@empowermentpoint.com. And if I can help you, I will. And if I can send you to someone else who can help you in some way that I may not be able to, I will send you there as well. But give me a buzz and I'm happy to have a chat with you too. And remember, in life and in business, you need persistence and a great sense of humour. So keep moving forward. Thanks, guys. See you later. Thanks, bye.